New questions raised over some perceived missteps in President Obama's re-election campaign, between attacks on Bain Capital that were actually criticized by Democrats and some slow fundraising. The president's re-election effort seems to be off to a bumpy start. With us for a fair and balanced debate, Alexis McGill-Johnson, Executive Director of the American Values Institute, and Sabrina Schaeffer, Executive Director of the Independent Women's Forum. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks.
So the gay marriage thing, for instance, is cited by some as an example. Alexis, did the president make a mistake in coming out and sort of diverting people's attention with that whole flap?
Oh, hardly. I think that his support of gay marriage showed the incredible leadership that we know that President Obama is capable of. I think it is rallying his troops on the left, and I think it's getting people very excited. So I hardly see that as a misstep.
But does, in rallying his troops on the left, Sabrina, is he losing votes in the middle?
Yeah, I actually see that there's quite a divide within the Democratic Party between the elites in Washington and those voters on the ground. I think, unfortunately, what we're seeing is that the White House is increasingly using fear. It's trying to use scapegoats. It's stooping to the lowest levels of leadership rather than tackling our economic problems head on. And the fact is, there's a lot that we should be scared of right now. There's a lot to fear. We have, and poll after poll is showing that Americans do not feel that the country is moving in the right direction. The president has a lot that he should be addressing, but he's not, like our nearly $16 trillion debt. And I think that people should be worried about our complete loss of freedom in health care and education, the complete subjugation of the citizen to the state right now. But the way that the president is dealing with these issues is the completely wrong direction.
Alexis, this article was written up in Politico, the online political website, a pretty neutral observer of things political. And a couple of the primary writers for that site put it together, and they said that some Democrats are fearful that this president doesn't seem to have his mojo, that he's kind of stumbling his way through this campaign.
I just completely disagree. I think the article was absolutely wrong. What we've seen over the last couple of weeks, this conversation around private equity and with the example that you started off with around gay marriage, is just an example of bold leadership and Obama's willingness to stand up for what he believes in, sometimes at the expense of other people in his party. So I think what he's done with the private equity conversation, he was able to help the Americans to vet Romney's record at Bain, which he has been putting forth as his qualification for running president. We have seen him time and time again stand up and talk about what working Americans really need to hear.
And yet, but Alexis, when, well, let me address this to Sabrina, but when people like Cory Booker come out and criticize the president for having taken on private equity, that doesn't seem to suggest that his, that this criticism of Bain or private equity is really resonating with Democrats.
That's right, because the fact is that people don't want to see a president who's critical of free enterprise. Whether you're a small mom-and-pop shop doesn't mean that you can't have aspirations to grow and to be something bigger. And when you see the president coming down so hard on the idea of free markets, on the idea of pro-growth policies, and coming down increasingly on the side of burdensome regulations, I think that more and more Americans are skeptical that this is the way to dig us out of this economic hole.
Look, let's be clear. Cory Booker's attack against the president has a lot to do with the fact that his base is a lot of private equity guys, right? I mean, that's what he's doing in Newark. He's getting a lot of funding from private equity guys. Obama's base actually understands that in order to grow this economy, we have to really focus on job creation, and that's not going to come at the expense of the private equity sector. What we've seen in Mitt Romney's record is that he, in fact, is not a job creator, whether he's working as a partner at Bain or he's working as governor of Massachusetts.
I have to disagree with that. I mean, I think that there's a very one-dimensional view of Bain Capital. The fact is, it is uncomfortable in many ways when a company like Bain, breaks apart other companies and people are clearly going to lose jobs, but that's only one side of the coin. The fact is that they're also rebuilding jobs, rebuilding businesses, and creating jobs for major companies like Staples, like Dunkin' Donuts, like the Guitar Center. And I think that that's very often overlooked in this whole conversation.
Look, Sabrina, you cannot go from being a strip miner into being an environmentalist, and that is what Romney is trying to convince us that he can do.
But Alexis, nobody buys a company intending. I mean, you just can't make money on a company if all you do is shut it down. I mean, the track record of Bain Capital showed that most of the companies that they bought actually went on to succeed.
And that was great for Bain's shareholders and partners, but what Bain's main proposition that they're offering is that they have been,
we have to interrupt you now because
Americans are not expendable assets.
Hang on a second. Alexis McGill, Sabrina Schaeffer, thank you both. Now to the president, who is ready.